I think that's the most you're going to get from Mags. I told everybody wants to see her, not me. How is everybody? Cool. Okay, so my mic is working, then that's good.
Thanks for getting your training done, Robin and Maggie. Your online mandatory state sexual harassment and Title IX and DCFS and all that stuff.
Yeah, no problem. We did do that, right?
You must have. You're not on my naughty list.
Well, good. Glad we got it done. Glad we got anything done this day and age. Kelly, I'm still working on getting that podcast produced. I've been just dragging on it. It's going to be a great one. I'm really happy about it, but
I was not able to record it like I thought I could.
I could send it to you if you want me to, the video. Yeah. And maybe just get you the finished product here too, if I can just find the time to finish up. I got too many irons in the fire is what's happening, and none of them really make much of a difference. It's just lots of stuff going on. Whew. Yeah, where is Don? I feel like what's that scene in Wayne's World where what's his cohort's name, where he's just sitting there by himself on camera, he doesn't know what to do. We're all just kind of waiting for him.
Talking about Garth.
Yeah, you know the scene when Garth is just staring into the screen and he just is he's losing it.
Yeah, doesn't know what to say.
Yeah. Awkward silences for 45 minutes.
Well, I don't understand it at all. You got plenty to talk about.
You're here.
I am. Evidently, nobody wants to talk either.
Nice win for the Army last weekend.
It was.
Very creative offense, let me tell you. But they got it done.
I was kind of amazed that it was such a low-scoring game. Both offenses kind of just weren't very good, and the defenses were.
Air Force next week.
Yep.
Chair Force.
I have two boys there, so kind of have to change sides of the stadium on you.
That's all right. It's all good fun. I have a running bet with my cousin who was a former Navy pilot. So whoever loses has to deliver a beverage of his choice to the winner. And it usually ends up being a nice get-together for a couple of cousins, you know?
So may I say something here? Craig?
Yes, you may. We can barely hear you.
Okay, well, maybe, will that help at all? I'll just talk a little louder.
Or can you get closer to the microphone? Or
not really, because it's built in.
All right.
Hold on, let's see if I can.
Can you get in the same room as the microphone?
Sounds like
I was going to say.
Speaking of beverages, after that ride home in the snow from the gym with all the idiots who've obviously never driven in snow before in Rochester.
You got snow?
Yeah, there's a couple inches. Nothing big. But the first real snow of the season, so everybody loses their damn minds.
We've gotten a sprinkle so far, just barely a dusting, and everybody went home from work at noon today, and like all day nothing happened. Everybody.
All right, so is that better? I
Much
switched
better,
microphones.
Greg.
Okay, well, I'll use that one then. So I just wanted to introduce myself. This is the first time I've been here. Greg Branch. I'm the author of the electronic skill eval app. That was on the agenda, so I figured I should show up and maybe answer some questions before I'm called to dinner.
That was actually, we discussed it quite a bit last week, but you're more than happy to engage everybody here.
Well, I'm here to answer questions. You know, a lot of the information has already been out there on the Facebook group, obviously. But if anybody's got any particular questions that haven't been answered there, I'm available.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
You don't have to say first time caller here, but we appreciate it.
Well, I am.
It's good to see new faces.
Hopefully you won't be the last time caller.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how busy y'all keep me working on the app.
Hi, Greg. This is Sarah from Wisconsin. I'm just wondering what state you're in.
I am in New York, in Ithaca, which is down at the south end of Cayuga Lake, which is one of the Finger Lakes here in New York.
Sounds pretty.
It is. That's one of the reasons we settled in here. I'm originally from Watertown, a little bit farther north. Spent about 30 years outside the state and then came back in so I could spend a little bit more time with my parents while I still had the opportunity. Been here in Ithaca for about 13 years, I think. Something like that.
I like Ithaca. Ithaca's a fun little area to ride.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got my favorite test loop, Enfield Falls Road and Sandbank Road. And, you know, we got a few hills and a few curves. But
I'll have to give you a shout next summer. You can show me the fun roads down there.
Okay. I spent 18 years in California and got spoiled out there. So unfortunately, you know, New York doesn't have anything like that I found yet.
Finger Lakes aren't bad. When we want some fun, you head down into Pennsylvania. From where you are, you have to head west.
Right.
From Rochester, we just go down south, and there's some fun stuff in northern and western Pennsylvania.
Yeah, one of these times I'd like to there's a road, I think it's New York 93, that follows the Delaware River along the border. And I drove it a couple years ago, and I just got to get back there on the bike one of these days.
Yeah, that's a haul and a half from here, but there's a couple places on the Delaware that I'd like to get to. One being an eel farm where you can pick up fresh smoked eel.
Okay.
It was on the Travel Channel years ago, and it's been on my list of places to go someday if I really get bored.
A million years ago, I went to Sweden, and my mother's cousin, who we were visiting, his neighbor would catch and smoke eel, and he brought us some fresh smoked eel that he made, and it was awesome.
Greg, can you explain kind of how you got off or began your quest to build this app?
Well, originally I thought it would be when, you know, I was standing out there with the clipboard and paper and stopwatch and pencil, and of course you drop the pencil, break the tip off, so you'd have to have a spare or two or three or mechanical pencil. And it just occurred to me that having all of this on an iOS device, preferably an iPad because the screen's bigger, but iPhone, whatever, it just seemed to make more sense to me, because you didn't have all the erasure marks on the paper. You could change things electronically. You could have a stopwatch built in. You could have it all there. It could print out the score sheet by itself, etc. It just seemed to make more sense. For the past few years, I've actually been using a PDF form that was produced by a fellow rider coach. Last I knew, he was in Tennessee. I forget what his name is now. I should have looked that up before the meeting. I'm sorry. But he produced a fillable PDF form that I've been using on the iPad, but it had a few bugs here and there. And so this year, with the lockdown and a little bit more time on my hands, I decided it's something that I've been wanting to do for about 5 years, but just never could seem to make the time to do it. This year, I buckled down and did it. And so the result is what is out there in the hands of, I think I've got about 16 or 17 people using it now, testing it. What I intend to do is make it the best I can and then open it up on the Apple App Store. And I'm thinking, and this is probably going to get a little resistance here, but I'm thinking a subscription model, because I have put a little bit of time in this. I don't have any other source of income other than the RiderCoach, the courses. And so I was hoping to be able to generate a little revenue from this as well. So originally I offered, I put out a feeler to MSF to see if that's something that they'd be willing to support, or if they'd want to be involved in it or anything. And after waiting for 10 weeks, I decided it was time to move on. Obviously they were not interested, and here we are.
Well, was it Gardner Jones from Tennessee?
That name is familiar. Yes, very much so. It might have been his.
He was in a 3-wheel certification class that I did there, or helped do there, and had created one for a 3-wheel.
Okay, well, he had one for the regular BRCU. Well, he originally had one for the original BRC, and then when the BRCU came out, he updated it. And as I said, that's the one I've been using until I got the app usable.
Hey, Greg, this is Sarah from Wisconsin again. So are you still looking for testers, or are you done with that phase?
I think I've got enough people hammering on it right now. And you know, I was looking primarily for folks down in the southern part of the country, because I know they're still active, and those of us up here in snow country, probably, I know, you know, Wisconsin, you probably don't do a whole lot of coaching this time of year.
It's kind of an understatement, don't you think?
Greg, you want to take down a name for Texas? I got a reference for it if you want.
You can just send me an email is the easiest way to do it.
Sure.
So you can look me up on RETSORG. And
Greg, what's the app called?
What's the app? The BRCU Skill Eval. And as I say, it's only available in testing right now. It's not available on the App Store yet. And when it is, I'll put it out an announcement, probably on the Facebook group.
Is that available on the Android yet?
Not yet. I've explored that. I was an Apple engineer for 24.5 years. And so that just seemed like the best place to start getting my feet wet with this mobile device development. I have started looking into Android. Obviously, it's a bit of a steeper learning curve for me, but eventually I hope to have something there. Depends on how popular the iOS version is.
Don't give in, Greg. Don't give in to the Android people. Stay with us.
Come on.
Stay with us. Do not give in to them people.
Hey,
I'm
Android and
excited
Linux
about
all the way.
I was gonna
To
say,
the dark side. Come to the dark
if you want to be
side.
all like that, just go direct to Linux and skip.
It's Android people here. Come on.
Stay with the young man. Stay below the ages. Stay below.
Belinda, be
Come
nice
on,
here today.
No.
You guys
So,
want to keep
I mean-
getting robbed by a company, keep doing it.
No. So,
I like,
Greg,
I like
I mean,
shareware and freeware and
that,
open
yeah.
source.
I hear you on that one. So, Greg, this is Belinda from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I do look forward to seeing how it turns out if you process it, you know, if you push forward on it. it brings up an interesting topic that I had with a fellow rider coach. So I'm an anti-clipboard coach. So because I have test anxiety myself, I have found that just folding my eval sheet, sliding it into my book, and, you know, just kind of as I'm picking up cones, write my scores down, those kind of things. And so I would love to open that discussion up about how many people or how people feel about their being an anti-clipboard, or do they love their clipboard? Does it give them the feel of power? Does it freak their students out? Do they find that not using a clipboard is better for their students? So I'd love to put that out there for discussion.
Well, Belinda, I'm anti-clipboard as well, but I always tell students ahead of time when I'm teaching that don't be alarmed if you see me writing down on the clipboard when you're being evaluated. I'm going to write down whether you're getting any points, whether you don't get any points, or if I just want to write something down, I'll write something down. Don't be alarmed by it.
I do the same thing, and we use individual score sheets, so you kind of have to have a clipboard, otherwise it gets a little unruly. But I try to keep it, you know, not out in my hands, you know, in test mode. I kind of have it at my side unless I got to write something down. And same thing, I tell them, hey, you know, I'm going to have to. I'm a record keeper right now, so I have to write down what you did, you know, good or bad. So don't be alarmed if I'm writing that. That's just part of it. So far, so good, I guess.
Yeah, Dennis, I'm with you. In my test preamble, I always say, you know, I have to write something down for everybody. Odds are I'm writing a 0, so don't worry about it.
I make the same kind of disclaimer, and in addition, I flash them the eval sheet and say, see this mess? This is what I have to fill out. So there's a lot to do. Don't be worried if I'm writing things down.
Yeah, we know, Nicole, we always got to write something down. Sometimes we even have to redo the whole sheet because there's so many erasure marks or scratches and all that other junk.
I used the app this weekend, and Greg, it is super slick. I really, really, really like it. I do have to work on my fumbling with the stopwatch part. I was having I was going, okay, right hand, left hand, which finger, my thumb, trying to figure out the best way to work it. But it has the advantages of working with the group score sheet in the way that you tabulate everything. It's because it's all there at once and you don't have a stack of papers flapping in the breeze. But then when you review test scores with the students, as you page back through, the students only see their own scores because you see each student individually. It's not, you don't see a group sheet. And it also takes care of the mess, because if you make a mistake, you just touch the screen in a different spot and you have the correct number exactly where you want it. And then at the very end, you save it into the PDF and air print it or email it to your desk computer and you're done.
Sounds exciting, people.
That was my goal, was to make it a lot easier. You did a lot more efficient, I guess, is what I was hoping for, because I didn't like using the paper and, as I said, erasure marks. And if it happens to be raining, it just doesn't work very well. And of course, you know, the newer devices are somewhat water resistant. So that's probably not as much of an issue with the newer phones and newer iPads, things like that. But, you know, it felt like the right thing to do, to automate as much as possible. You know, I believe that MSF should have been doing this years ago, and it was obvious to me that it was not forthcoming, and so that's why I took the initiative and just threw it out there.
Yeah, it was easy to use. I think an iPad would be an advantage because the spots you need to touch would be a lot larger than they are on a phone. So I could see that being helpful. I was able to, it was easy to, I could show the student if they were curious. I could show them what was going on. I like the fact that it kept a running total across the top as you page through each student as you were scoring. It had you could see along the top what was going on in addition to the particular evaluation you were scoring. It was nice. It was efficient.
Thank you.
Is this app publicly available yet?
No, it is currently in testing.
I'm curious. I would like to be updated on that. That sounds fantastic. I hate doing the clipboard thing. I know it messes with the students. My phone's waterproof, so if it's raining, it doesn't matter. This sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I've actually got a waterproof case on my iPad, and I did test it on a rainy day one day, and the water on the screen actually changed the impedance of the screen and made touches a bit difficult, shall I say. So
yeah, I can see that.
I don't know if the newer phones, the new water resistant phones have made an allowance for that or not. I don't have one. I haven't tested it. So I guess we'll figure that out as time goes on. This time of year, here in Ithaca, we don't think about rain too much.
Mark, was this your first time using it?
Yes, for a class, I had two students that I had done one-on-one retests with, so I had used it with them. Up to that point, as far as working with a group, I had just made up a mock class and played with it in the office. But yeah, this Sunday was the first time actually using it live, so I was backup scoring. There were two other coaches who were running the evaluation, and I was just in the background because I wasn't 100% sure, and I knew from my playing with it in the office that the stopwatch was what I was going to have difficulty with, even though there's a large area on the screen. Actually, almost half of the screen, I think, is live for just start and stop. It doesn't actually have a start and stop button. I discovered that I was able to touch a lot of different places on the phone that I didn't actually expect. When I was actually tracking where the student was, I was sometimes missing the target. So I'm going to have to do more practice with the stopwatch.
Yeah, the stopwatch I put there because I could, and it was this whole thing has been a learning experience for me. I put the stopwatch in because I knew that the functionality was built into the system. Because of course the iPhones come with their own built-in clock and stopwatch and stuff. But I also made it possible to manually enter the times on the 3 evaluations that require timing, so that if you can't use the stopwatch, you can't figure it out, it's not working right for you, you can't get the timing right, whatever, you can still use the good old manual stopwatch and then just enter the times manually.
Yes, that's exactly what we did on any of the students that I missed the time. I just typed in whatever time the other coaches got. And starting the stopwatch was always fine. It was the stopping part that was where I was failing. Okay.
Yeah, if you've got any suggestions on how that could be easier, feel free. Originally, like the built-in stopwatch on the phones, mine had start and stop and reset buttons. And then I found through the RETSORG forums, there's a stopwatch app out there that allows you to touch anywhere on the screen to start and stop. And I thought, hey, I like that idea. And so that's why I implemented that the way it is. The whole, as Mark says, the whole basically the bottom half of the screen is the stopwatch area. And you can tap anywhere in that area to start and stop the timing. And then there is a reset button, but that reset button is disabled while the stopwatch is actually running and before the stopwatch begins to run. So, once it's at 0, once you've reset it once, or once it's at the beginning, you can tap anywhere, even on the reset button, and the stopwatch will start. And then you can tap anywhere within the stopwatch area, it'll stop it, and then the reset button activates.
Those all sound like really good good things, because I know those few occasions where I've had to use my phone as a stopwatch, I've found it to be awkward because of needing to be accurate about where you pressed while you're trying to
Right.
watch the students, and that sounds like a huge improvement.
Well, and that's why I implemented it that way, to be able to touch it, tap it anywhere on that bottom half of the screen, because that way, you know, obviously you're watching the student, you're watching the timing zones. You can't be looking at where the button is located on the screen. So it just made more sense to have a big button, basically.
Yeah, and there was definitely a learning curve to using the stopwatch. When I initially started with it, just in practice, I was consistently at least 1/10 of a second slow using the phone. But by the time we were going in class, I was much more accurate. When we got to swerving, all of the times I got successfully, I was within a few hundredths of the other coaches, and then I was plus or minus. I wasn't consistently slower or quicker, but initially I was definitely a lot slower. But it was a learning process and how to more efficiently tap.
Right. Well, even if you can remember back to when we all started this and became rider coaches, the whole thing was really a learning process. You know, the timing and getting timing right. And even now with the tactile buttons on an actual stopwatch, you know, two coaches standing next to each other could be a couple of hundredths off from each other. And that's just the nature of hundredths of a second. So, you know, as I said, there's really, I hate to say it, but I don't really think there's anything that I can do in the stopwatch portion of this to make it more accurate, because it is what it is, basically. You know, it's just basically calling into the system and using the clock on the system to get the timings.
Well, what you'll have to do is you'll have to program it so that we can hold our phone up with the camera showing the student, and it'll automatically track when the tire breaks each line and just do the stopwatch automatically for us.
That's going to be version 2.0.
That will be
another quick question.
Actually, a program already out that does that.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Yeah, there's a camera radar thing. It was out several years ago.
Yeah.
Or we just need the Bluetooth electric eyes.
I was going to say, do the iPhones have volume buttons like the Androids? Because I have a stopwatch app that works off my volume button.
Yeah, I looked into that. Apple iOS doesn't allow you to use the buttons for anything other than what they're designed for, unfortunately.
That's a bummer, because that makes it's like a real stopwatch, you know?
Right.
Yeah, that sounds like Apple for
it
you.
helps having the tactile buttons. I'll grant you that. So I did the best I could.
It was worth a try.
Yeah. Well, so when I do the Android version, maybe I can do that. And you notice I said when, not if, when. Anything is possible.
On the Android, Greg.
Huh?
Keep us informed on the Android, because I'm an Android guy.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
We do have you recorded now, so it's not when, it's when you must do it.
Well, as I said in the I think I might have said it on the Facebook group, you know, anything is possible in software, given enough time and resource. That's usually the gating factor, is the resources available to you.
As a former software guy, I would beg to differ. But
There's no such thing as former.
Oh yeah, there is.
What did I miss? Anything?
We were talking bad about you, Jeff, but it's over. But I'm sorry you missed it.
Yeah, we're done for the night, Jeff. Sorry.
Hey, Jeff, you think we're going to play on the range Sunday? Or?
I don't know, dude. 18 inches of snow. And it's
I know.
cold.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I am scheduled to work with Jeff on Sunday, so we'll see.
Yeah.
So my question is, how much is on the ground now?
Zero. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's coming.
Right. We got 18, 10 to 18 or something like that, 12 to 18 projected.
Good for you guys. Good for you. Builds character. You guys can have it all.
Yeah.
So I scheduled my appointment for my nice, really good winter tires. It's going to be on Saturday, though.
Great timing.
Are you putting chains on the bike there, Josh?
I was going to say on your Goldwing.
Yeah, on the Goldwing, I was going to get those ice. You know how they have those ice racing tires?
Yeah.
I could probably do it on my XT225. I've always wanted to do that.
Yes.
You totally could do it on your XT, but there's several different versions of tires. The stuff that you see like actual on frozen lakes ice will not work on pavement because all that touches down is metal. I don't know. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with this. This is one of my areas that I know about.
Goody!
They look like hex head sheet metal screws.
Yeah, some of the people from the track day organization that I go to, actually, that's what they do is they're from the colder part of the state out, I believe, near the Berkshires of Massachusetts. And they have a lake that's groomed, and that's what they do all winter long.
So I have like so many questions because I'm on the verge of buying a dual sport to do this with.
Okay.
How easy is it going to be for me to totally hurt myself? Is it going to keep me entertained for a whole winter? Is it worth buying a bike and doing this to it? And can I buy the stud kit that's like comes with however many and I put them in with the screw gun?
You absolutely can do your own with a screw gun. Where do you live?
Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes, baby.
Now, I'm from Wisconsin. We've got more than you. You absolutely can do, okay, in order. Can you do it on dual sport? Yes, they're heavier than, a dedicated motocross bike, which is what most guys run, or gals, and most people run.
Yes.
But it's totally doable. Absolutely.
Okay.
If you're just going out to have some fun and play with it, great. Is it going to keep you entertained all winter? That's up to you. It gets cold out there. You have to find a lake that is, I don't know Minnesota laws, but publicly accessible. You have to have physical access to the lake, generally a boat launch ramp. Sometimes you can just kind of roll down off a shore. A way to get the bike there where it doesn't touch the pavement. So you got a trailer to the lake. You're not going to ride to the lake. What else?
Tires. How am I going to get hurt?
Do you ride dirt bikes? Do you already ride dirt?
I ride dirt bikes? I ride a GS 1200 off-road. But I don't have a ton of dirt biking experience.
It's
not hardcore.
Yourself on the ice as it is on dirt. I have fallen down more times standing next to the motorcycle than actually riding it.
Okay. Good.
Feet don't have very good traction. One of the big things is for the ice screws to work, they don't want to go through a lot of snow. They absolutely can, but they will not hook up as well. So generally, most ice riding is done on plowed tracks on a lake, which means you have to find a lake that somebody's plowing on.
Okay.
As far as tires, yes, you can do them yourself. They will not work anywhere near as well as a set of pro-builts, but pro-built tires are expensive.
Hey, Laura.
Okay, good to know. Yeah.
Look on the
Christopher sounds
chat,
concerned.
there's videos posted.
Something about Mark Marquez?
Yeah, he took his Red Bull bike and did an Alpine run with the tires that you're talking about. Look at the tires on the bike.
Okay.
Does he have big long screws sticking out?
No, Chris got that from the Super Slick. I posted that a year or so ago. It's freaking smoking. Yeah, if you look it up,
he like opened it wide open and did the Alpine run.
Yeah.
All right, you guys are gonna make me go out and take a picture of ice tires.
This is coming from a guy who uses wood screws to fasten his gas tank back in place.
I do not.
Matt, we're gonna make you take a video.
Those tires are scary. Like if I fell off and those touched someone, that would hurt.
Yeah,
That would do damage.
Let him run though.
How long are the spikes on his tires?
Like
I
what
think-
you said, like drywall screw length, like 1.5 inches or 2 inches, it looks
But
like.
you're seeing the threaded end of the drywall screw.
I can't see that
They're
good.
stud.
You're seeing
They're
big
not
long
screws.
spikes sticking out of the tire.
Yeah.
That is
It's not just studs.
Okay, both of you have pictures for icons, so none of us can see anything at this point. We're just listening to this like it's a phone conversation.
But it's in the chat. It's sitting in the chat. The link is there.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'm going to click this, and I expect to see the
No,
Gene
Christopher
Simmons of
posted it.
motorcycles.
I am walking out to my garage right now to take a picture of an actual set of ice tires that I own.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Because what Mark Marquez has on his bike is not what most, that's not an AMA legal ice tire. So they're quite different. It's dark out here and I can't get the key in. Now it's dark in here.
Man, those are gnarly spikes on that thing.
Yeah, the sport bike guys do that, and those are probably actually bolts that are sharpened, drilled through the tire, and through bolted through the tire.
They look like the studs that I used to
Yep.
put on my leather jackets when I was a punk teenager.
Yeah, it's not even knobbies. He just took a street tire.
Yeah, the sport bike guys do that. Now, where
At least throw a set of knobbies on there. Jeez.
I'm trying to
so
find
now I can do my Gixxer 1000 up. So I got some tires that are kind of worn out. So
Chris, I'm so happy you brought this thing up. This is just nuts. He's just just on it the whole time. Ah!
And he lifts the front end up while he's doing it too.
You know, a real MotoGP guy would go off a ski jump.
I think he does.
Well, this is Kitzbühel, Austria, so it's very possible that this is like an actual like GP slalom course or something.
Yeah,
Okay, so he's on
read the
snow.
luge.
So I want to review what you said about you can't like it's not going to work if there's snow. So it's not like a fat tire bicycle at all, right?
Well, he's on hard pack probably though.
That could be, but like loose snow. So loose snow is not going to work.
It will work. Not as, and it depends on the type of tires. You could build a set of tires like that. Let me see. Turn on my video here. Now you guys can see me, right? Oh God, who wants to see that? There. Okay. You guys see my Moose Racing logo here?
Well, I'm seeing a picture of Chris right now.
All right. Oh, well, yeah, I have to keep talking to keep it on mine, don't I? You may have to select me individually.
Dennis, are you on your computer?
Yes, I am.
All right,
There you go,
go
Matt, yeah.
go to the right hand, up to the right tip corner of your screen, and there's say a gallery view.
I was gonna say, Donald, you might be able to hit this thing that makes him go big. I know
Yeah,
I did it
Don,
with a
can you-
Masonic meeting the other night.
Can you pin me?
They already got to take care of Belinda. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's like focus or something, or there's a name for it that they can make him like big and everybody else small.
But this is one of my rear tires.
And so that's a tire that you buy that already is like that.
This one is a pro built tire. Yeah, you can tell it's got some wear, like where my finger is. It's missing several screws. It's missing 2 screws in this knob.
Oh yeah, okay.
And like this one is starting to pull out. This is not a competitive tire anymore, but for how fast I am, it's fine.
I don't think I need to worry about competitive.
No, this is an AMA legal tire. This tire is legal to run in American Motorcyclist Association sanctioned events. The heads of these screws are about 1/4 inch tall. You know, and you guys can see they look like hex head sheet metal screws.
I don't think I need to worry about that in St. Louis either.
They're sharp. they're quite sharp. I can cut my finger on the sides of these screws.
And so you're saying that you wouldn't ride that like 2 blocks to the lake?
No, absolutely not. It would take all the sharp corners off the screws. It would not hook up well in the street because it'd just be metal touching the street. And in fact, the reason you can only see part of the tire is it's in a wrap that's like a super heavy duty tie down, the orange material. So that when it's on the motorcycle, I can roll it into my garage and the screws don't touch the concrete floor of my garage at all. Because that'll dull them and they won't hook up nearly as well. There are options out there to do carbide tip studs. I'm going to turn off my video now because I'm going to go inside because my feet are cold. There are options to do studs that still allow some rubber to come through that would be usable to ride a couple of blocks on the street, but everything is a compromise. Those wouldn't hook up nearly as well on the ice.
Sure. All right. Well,
it all depends on what you want to do. You know, that rear tire was at one point a competition level race tire.
okay. All right. Well, cool. I was hoping somebody would know something about all that, and there you have it. Thanks, Matt. That's super helpful.
A couple of resources would be look up Jeff Fredette, Freddette, I think. He builds tires. He's multi-time enduro champion of the world or universe or something. He's been doing ice race stuff forever. He's in Northern Illinois. And look, if you're not already on ADV Rider, hit up ADV Rider and see if there's anybody local doing some ice racing, or hit up Facebook groups. Here in Wisconsin, we have Wisconsin Motorcycle Ice Racers or something like that.
Okay.
And generally, if you join a group like that or see a bunch of people stopped out on the ice and show up and say, hey, I'm curious about this. I know if anybody showed up, I'd be happy to let them ride my bike, usually.
Well, that's cool. All right. That's nice. Oh, I know. One more question, and then we can stop boring the warm weather climate people to death with this. What kind of cold weather gear do you wear for that? Or what kind of gear do you wear for that?
A lot of people wear like snowmobile style gear, snowmobile jackets and pants. I don't have a snowmobile, and I am, we'll say, frugal, to put it nicely.
Okay.
So I generally run motocross boots and like Carhartt style overalls.
Okay, cool. You know, thank
Carhartt, duck twill, snowsuit kind of thing. It's not waterproof, which is not great, but I generally run a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, a long sleeve t-shirt, and a Carhartt. And when I'm riding spiritedly, I'll end up with the Carhartt unzipped about halfway down.
But like body armor and stuff like you would for dirt biking, or no?
That's a good idea. I generally don't. But that's
right.
A really good idea.
Oh, okay. Sure. Awesome.
It's hard, especially it's hard to get it on under a Carhartt. They generally don't have enough room to get real knee pads and stuff in. The optimal thing is just don't fall down, and then you don't need
it. Did you just see Mike's comment, Laura?
About the ice BRC?
Yeah.
You might have a lot of people that are interested in that, depending on what part of the country we're in.
That would be, I don't know if I do an ice BRC, but more of an IMIR introduction. No, wait. I don't know. Introductory motorcycle experience on ice.
Or an ARC ice.
Oh, that'd be cool. The biggest catch with ice is it's unpredictable, and for tires like mine to hook up, it has to be plowed. It has to be clear. The they'll go through a little bit of fluff, but even during races, as the bikes go around, they start to chew up the ice and you can feel the traction go away. They make Canadian screws, air quote, that are a little bit longer headed so they can go through more fluff. But during a 3-hour ice race, by about the 40-minute mark, they'll generally have a truck circulating with the racers during the race, plowing the track for the rest of the race.
Okay, good to know. Good to know that I shouldn't expect it to be like a fat tire bicycle.
Motorcycles are too big and heavy for that. They kind of go through the snowbanks. If you're ever in Wisconsin, though, you're welcome to ride my bike.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'll definitely keep that in mind. We'll see how this goes if I decide that it's something I'm going to do or not.
Take the BRC before you buy the bike. Please.
Just make sure you take videos, Laura. Lots of videos. We want to see all the action.
Sure.
If it's not on video, it didn't happen.
I mean, I've played in the snow with knobbies just messing around in the yard.
On YouTube.
I've been tempted to try my bike in the snow. With all the electronics on it, it should do all right.
Wonder if I could do that on my bike.
With knobbies, I was just trying to see, how long I could stay up. It wasn't too bad, though. But the XT is really light. It doesn't weigh anything.
I don't have knobbies. I think they're 80/20s on there now. They did all right in everything I tried off-roady, but I've never tried snow.
We were out on the frozen lake probably 5 or 6 years ago. And disclaimer, I haven't ridden ice in probably 4 years. I've just been too lazy to set up a bike, or didn't have money, or was between tires or whatever. But we were out probably 6 years ago. We used to ride almost every weekend on Lake Winnebago in Wisconsin. And we're sitting out there and we're hanging out and, ride a little bit and come back and hang out by the trucks. And a guy comes driving out and he's like, "Oh, hey, you guys, that's really cool. You're out here ice riding. Would you mind if I brought my bike out?" And we said, "Oh, no, sure. That's cool, man. Bring it out." And he says, "Oh, cool. Thanks." And he heads back in. And about 30 minutes later, he shows up on an XS 650 on street tires on a frozen lake.
Oh, boy.
And took a lap slowly. It was interesting.
I imagine if you have like flat track experience, it's got to be similar.
He didn't.
Oh, well.
And actually, I think that you're right. They also do, it's more popular in Michigan, but they do all rubber ice racing. And they take knobbies and they put them on a special machine, and it just kind of shreds the knob. You remember those koosh balls with all the little rubber things that poked out of them? It
so
essentially
makes
turns
it like,
the knobs into those. Okay, somebody talk about something else so I don't feel like I'm taking up the whole time.
Well, I'm enjoying this. Something else to spend money on.
I had a friend in Brooklyn, and many years ago, it started to snow, and it ended up a few inches of snow on the ground, by the time she had to ride home. And the streets had become all kind of hard packed and there was zero traction. So she was riding home on the sidewalk on her Rebel, and a cop stopped her and said, "What are you riding the sidewalk?" And she said, "There's no traction on the street. This is the only way I'm going to make it." And he's like, "Okay, you take it easy." Sent her on her way, and she did manage to get home. So I thought that was pretty nice of him.
The good old days.
It has to have been 40 years ago. So yeah.
Hi, this is Kevin Butler from Illinois. I just want to say hi to everyone. This is my first Tribe Talk.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, I had an invite from, I think November's from Robin Dean, but I missed seeing his email or the message that he sent me. So I'm actually really eager to review that one, the recording of it, because I'm a new coach. I was certified the summer of 2019. And so I've only done one class as a coach, done a couple as a few as range aid. So I'm just kind of eager to review that tribe talk and get other new coaches' perspectives. So
where do you normally teach, Kevin?
Where I should say my preferences would be probably at Harper College in Palatine, Illinois, or College of Lake County up in Grays Lake, Illinois, because I'm kind of almost equidistant, between the two in terms of from a location perspective. I'm in Deerfield, which it's probably about half hour to 45 minutes to each location. Yeah. So, hello everyone.
Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, welcome. Do you want to tell us about how your first year of coaching went?
Well, it was even though I only did one class, I was thrown in with another new coach, and so that was made me apprehensive, a little bit nervous. But the cool thing is, at the time, well, I think it's still the case, at CLC, College Lake County, they have 3 ranges literally adjacent to each other in one parking lot, right? So the other 2 classes, the 2 sections of coaches, very experienced and very helpful. And so that really kind of put me at ease and smoothed it out for me anyway. So that helped a lot, just to have someone there for questions for when you're uncertain, because like I said, I was certified by the end of July, and I did a class over Labor Day weekend, and just, I don't know, kind of felt thrown into it. But that just might be me and how much I felt I prepared myself for it mentally.
I think feeling like you're thrown into it is a universal new rider coach feeling for sure.
And then
I was just going to say the same thing. You never feel like you're ready for your first class.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, about a month later, I did the same location as a range aid, and I am embarrassed to say that at the time they allowed a range aid to cover 3 classes at one time, 3 sections at one time, but you kind of had to stagger it if you were smart about it, and you had to be really fast with the cones. And I dare say I could be the reason why they stopped allowing that, because I was not fast enough and kind of slow. And it wouldn't surprise me if the other coaches gave feedback that said, hey, this guy should not do 3 sections at one time as a range aid. So it was understandable, but that was a cool experience too. And then just this past fall, as COVID was kind of lifting, I did a range aid class as a range aid out at Harper College. And I'm actually kind of curious. I haven't seen any notices, but what happens to the coaches that, because of COVID, it gets more than 2 years between their classes? Does that breach like their certification or recertification? I see Christopher shaking his head no. Is that right?
You just need to, if you get your 4 classes in 1 year, your MSF will waive your 2-year requirement. So if you got 1 class and then do like 3 classes next year or 4 classes next year, just contact Lori Brim at MSF and she'll help you with it. It's
yeah, but being Christopher, being a range aid doesn't count as coaching, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm
actual course time. So, and it goes by anniversary date on your recertification. So if you recertified you certified in July, then you've got all of 2020, and then your next recert period will be 2022 or 2021.
2021.
You did a 19, so you've got like 6 months to get 4 classes in.
Okay. But what I'm saying is, if COVID doesn't change things and the sections aren't reinstated this year, what do the coaches do? Like in my situation, would I have to go through recertification completely?
Contact Lori Brim.
Okay.
And she'll help with it. They've made arrangements for this.
Okay, thank you.
They talked about that on the VRETS yesterday. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was yesterday. Said contact MSF. They're doing things on a person by person basis.
Okay. Good to know. Thanks. I'm going to put my video on mute because I'm still eating dinner.
So speaking of the VRETs yesterday, what do you all think about the forum comments and the status of that and how we feel about that?
I was gonna say I didn't get a chance. I was registered for it, but something came up at work, so I didn't get a chance to get in on VRETs. So I'm not sure exactly what was discussed.
Well, so the observation was made a couple weeks ago that the forum has been down, and I guess the official statement as of yesterday was that it's down and we don't know if it's going to come back for, it sounds like maybe a few different reasons, but that either there are other forums that are doing an okay job of taking the place of that would be one of the justifications for not bringing it back, and or the engagement from rider coaches is really super limited. But if we have strong opinions about it, that we should email Ray or Kathy or both and make that known. So I guess I'm in the camp of, I really feel like it needs to exist, and I find it super useful, despite the fact that I'm not a very frequent poster. But I don't know where I fall in that spectrum and how other people feel about it. I don't participate in Facebook, so that's part of it for me, I think.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I post sometimes there. I'm not like a super frequent poster, but I read a lot. I'm probably on the forum, or I was, once or twice a week, if not every day. And sometimes I'd be curious of something and I'd use the search feature. And I found that a very useful resource to be able to look at past topics. If I had a topic that I wanted to know more information about, I'd search it and I'd be able to find threads that gave me some insight.
I think personally the forum itself could be overhauled. Some of the stuff in there I think has been sitting in the forum for like 5 or 6 years that they could possibly get rid of, especially if there's never been an update from it.
Like, can you be more specific about that, Dennis?
Well, I'm trying to remember back then, but unfortunately I do have CRS, Laura, but from what I remember, there's a few posts that were 4 or 5 years old that they were talking about the BRCU when it first came out. But nobody had recently updated a post on that particular area of the forum. But then there was one link they had on the forum to where you could click on new links to see what was most recently added to the forum.
Sometimes though, that old stuff is where I find useful information, like Josh was saying with doing the search in the forum. You never know what you might find in some of the really old stuff. And even stuff from the previous BRC, a lot of the theory is still relevant to the current curriculum.
Well, one thing that you're talking about there, Rita, that Josh has said before, that I've never really found out how and where you could go and click on the search button for the forum. I was one of those things I couldn't figure out, I guess, or never found it, one of the two.
I think it was on the top right-hand side.
Now you
I use that a lot.
Josh, come on.
I use that search all the time. That was like my favorite thing on the forums.
Yeah, that's one of those things where just recently I found out where the new posts were on the forum that I could click on to that part, see what's most recently been added. I guess I never really looked close enough to see what about the search button.
Yeah, I usually end up going into all kind of weird areas just because I've played with software and with people that develop software. They throw something called an Easter egg in sometimes. So you're always looking for like where somebody hid something funny.
Well, I do hope they bring the forum back. Maybe they need to revamp it to completely to see and update it a little bit more to see what works best for everybody, and maybe have a little link for stuff that's like 4 or 5 years old or older that everybody can go to if they want to look at it.
I don't go on on Facebook at all, so I would look at the forum about once a week. In a way, I feel that the MSF didn't respond to a lot of questions, and a lot of threads got strung out ad nauseum, where it could have been cut a little shorter if we had something clarified by the developers and people in the know from MSF.
Gonna say, I wonder what Ralph Russo's doing now without the forum. He's a good friend of mine, but he posted a lot.
Well, maybe if enough of us would end up going back and letting MSF know that we like the forum, maybe just update a little bit and go with some of the suggestions we all give them.
I have to admit, the only time I think I ever looked at the forum was when I first signed up for RETSORG after I became a rider coach. I got burned out of forums many, many years ago. And I just can't deal with them.
So I'm right there with Mike. I think the only time I did ever go on there, maybe I searched once or twice, and maybe again when I recertified. You know, I did understand when Ray said we have 7,000 rider coaches. We have how many? You know, it was like the numbers were like 7,000 and 500, and then like maybe 20 people that post on it or on a regular basis. So I understood that aspect of it. I do, on the other side of that, I do understand that there are people that find, you know, Facebook hell, you know, the refuse to step into the, you know, those things, those kind of social media forums. And so that's understandable also, because I mean, I have a lot of great friends that refuse to do it. So it would be nice to have for both, you know, sides, the people that still are comfortable with the regular forums, but then there's also like me, that people like me that are not gonna, I'm probably not gonna go on there and search, other than it's if I need to search something. And if I need something, I'm just gonna go to the library on MSF and download a form that I need. It's usually the only time I ever go to the page anyways. And so, yeah, I could definitely see from both sides. But I mean, if you think about it, like he said, there were 7,000 registered rider coaches, and there's what, 20 of us in here. It's probably 20 of us that have ever posted on there. And so just to kind of keep that into perspective too.
All right, so totally new topic. I ran across a term today that I had never heard of before. It was formative assessment. And my 15-second search on Google, it seemed to me that it was essentially, I would compare it to a gap analysis. That's all I know about it. Does anyone know more about it who can share?
Rita, that's a new one on me. I don't know if I've ever heard of formative assessment. It's beyond my knowledge of expertise of almost anything.
Sorry, try.
I think Jason's having fun with his sound.
There, shut off the phone. Sorry. Formative versus summative assessments. Been done in education for many years. The formative assessment thing, building block stuff, almost like the way we have the benchmark of do you go on? Student must demonstrate the following skills to move on to the next exercise. Where the summative assessment is essentially the test at the end. And through the formative assessments, usually, like you said, gap analysis is an opportunity to reflect and build on those things for the teacher. How I guess so different from the BRC. If you don't show that you can meet the objectives, you don't move on. From the opportunity for the instructor, and how that would compare is when do you go to remedial instruction for that student that just needs the little extra something.
Jason, they weren't this quiet before you got on. I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
It's during the breaks. Do it during the breaks.
You're really trying to make Jason feel good there, Rita.
Yeah, you know, you get those breaks in between when they're taking 10, you have an opportunity to talk to a student.
I believe the fantastic part here is not so much for everybody going silent, but if I show up and talk early, Don can stop the video there. That's so less editing for Don. Just cut it. But Rita, I guess on the end of learning about formative assessment, what context did you hear it in?
I ended up signed up for a email that I get sometimes from a teaching group that Dan Pedersen suggested, and there was a headline that came across in the email that I got today that said formative assessment, and I'd never heard the term, so I looked it up and saw formative versus summative assessments. And it got me thinking about, I wonder if that would be something I should explore more, and how directly would it help me be a better coach? And Robin, I think you were saying something a little bit earlier, but it was so quiet that I don't know everybody heard it.
Yeah, this microphone is crap, so I switched to the computer one. But basically, the breaks are our only opportunity to do that if time constraints and such. So during the breaks, if one is long enough, take them aside, talk to them, walk them through a thing. Spend your time when you would normally go pee and hold it for the rest of the next exercise.
Don't we use that same feedback opportunity every time they go around a lap and we have a coaching moment with them, like a stop, or when they pull into the staging area? Isn't that a feedback moment, a formative assessment? Where
yes,
we're
except I think one of the key words in what Mr. Hareheim was saying there was remedial. We run into a session where they start to lose what they learned and need to revisit it.
So across,
you know,
right under
it's
the,
not,
do you see
if
the
it's not
action setting
pertinent to the
performance
current
history?
exercise, then you have to take a moment, if customer service being what it is, pull them aside and talk to them about it and see if they want to go through the motions again during a break.
I totally, I think listening to what Don said, yeah, every lap is potentially, although that's something we're doing, not wanting to necessarily tell the students up front, although, sometimes jokingly, yes, I'm standing here judging you and you paid me for it. But lightheartedly, looking at it. What's that one thing? Low-hanging fruit. What can we give them potentially, or what can we get them to say on their own? Acknowledgement, accountability, and self-assessment. So yeah, Don, you're right. Every lap we have that opportunity, and sometimes it's best to keep your mouth shut and see what happens on the next lap before you open it.
So my understanding of formative assessment is that it's a periodic assessment and gives us the opportunity to give feedback not only on weaknesses but strengths. So when we're trying to meet the objective of an exercise or trying to meet the objective of a classroom activity, anything leading up to that where we can give them feedback is part of the formative process. It lets us know, kind of do the gap analysis like Rita said, but it also gives them feedback so they can make their own corrections and possibly meet the objectives or strengthen something they're already working on. So your summative would be your skills test or your knowledge test at the end to ensure that they've got everything before they leave. But formative is done all the way through. One of the beauties of MSF's curriculum is we have that opportunity to do a formative assessment from beginning to end and walk them through the process. And only when we have to stop the process, if they aren't able to meet the objectives. But I could be wrong.
I saw that, Ted.
How did we get on the subject of a toaster tonight? Who's getting all those?
Robin, did you see Mike's comment earlier about if you have 4 more referrals, you're going to get a free toaster?
Yeah, and I immediately thought of the jerk Steve Martin and a free oven mitt. Free oven mitt.
Yeah, that's where the toaster comments started coming in. I was wondering about that. And Robin started up trouble about toasters. Are his ears broken at home?
No, I didn't. This is Jenkins is giving me hell about my bike.
Is it in one piece this week?
It is in one piece, yes, with 20, just shy of 24,000 miles this year.
And how many parts left over from the last time you worked on it?
Oh, I mean, I've got extras. I get extras all the time. It's like, look at that. It's like a gumball machine.
That's weight reduction for better fuel economy and performance.
Totally. As Matt
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Usually I'll leave like one cylinder head off just to go faster.
Hey, can everybody refresh my memory? I used to have the background picture here of my Goldwing. Now I got the background of the office here at home.
And Barbies. You got Barbies, Dennis.
So on the bottom, Dennis, where it shows stop video, there's a little up arrow. If you click on that up arrow, it says choose a virtual background.
We'd love to know about the dolls, though.
Thanks, Josh. I owe you for that one, Josh.
Anytime, Dennis, anytime.
Hey,
my camera's too crappy to work with the virtual background, so.
Hey, Dennis, tell us about your doll collection behind you.
Well, that's not my doll collection. That's my wife's Barbie doll collection. Come on, be nice, y'all.
Sure, it's not yours.
It's okay, Dennis. We all have different, various interests. Hello?
Got to save for retirement somehow.
Now he's talking to his dolls.
No, I'm talking to my wife. I said I'm getting blamed for the Barbie doll collection behind me.
No. You're mistaken getting blamed for our admiration of the doll collection.
Yeah. My lovely wife has a good Barbie doll collection, and she never lets me play with them.
They wouldn't be nib if you played with them.
Right. They'll be worth more when you all have to sell them for your retirement.
Well, no, we're keeping them. That's an investment.
Is there a more awkward subject than Dennis's dolls?
A little bit bothered by the 20 contacts. What happened to those 20?
All right, who said that? I didn't catch all that, Rick. What did you say?
Could there be a more awkward subject than your doll collection?
I got many doll collections here, but my wife won't let me play with them.
Thanks, Dennis. Keep that enthusiasm going.
We need to.
It looks like Donald's taking notes.
I think that goes with the end of the year compilation video, Dennis's dolls.
What's your clip in the compilation, Don?
What's my clip? I don't know. It's just something I dreamed up as I was writing it down right there.
Thanks, Don. You don't need to write that down. Okay.
I think that goes with Ron sleeping.
Oh, Ron's sleeping again?
We should have like a bloopers reel or something, shouldn't we?
Oh, yes,
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
Oh, the hours I could play with that.
That might be a good way to grow the tribe.
Kevin, make sure you do this again, man. It was really cool that you were here.
Yeah, looking forward to the end of the month. I'm going to go. I got to get some stuff done, but I also want to check out the last month's meeting for the newbies. So thanks again, everyone. Good to meet you all, and talk to you at the end of the month.
Kevin, feel free to stop by anytime. You're always welcome, brother.
All right. See y'all.
So the snow is just starting to fly here in Massachusetts. You must have it in New York already, I would imagine.
I haven't seen it yet. Although it looks like as I look out my window and up the road, I can barely see Christmas lights, so it must be coming down. So Rita put a bug in my ear. I think it was last week after the last tribe talk. And it's like an earworm. It keeps coming back, and it has to do with languaging. What would you say our language as rider coaches consists of?
Acronyms?
I was going to say a lot of acronyms.
Are you talking about language with our students or language with other rider coaches, or?
Yes.
What is it? I knew you were going to say that.
The answer to most or questions is yes.
Or always the answer is slow down, right? Always the answer is always slow down. So I would definitely say, hey, I'm learning to speak with other rider coaches. And so I'm doing my best to practice that. But with students, it usually is about the language and the way we say things. But like I said, I've had a little bit extra training on doing that. That tuition check and that student loan check I write every month. It helps with that. But yes, so I think the language we use with people in general, but especially our students, we need to be super aware of that. Keeping it positive and not using negative, words like you can't or don't and those kind of things.
I'd say learner-centered. That's our language has really honed in on learner-centered. For fellow rider coaches, for our students, for my family, it's really gone learner-centered the last few years. How would you do this differently? Yeah, that seems to be a complete change of focus on was it right or wrong, but how can we do it differently? Whatever it is, whatever subject, whatever people I'm talking to has turned into that.
Customer
that goes along,
service.
Sarah. Oh, sorry. So I was going to say, Sarah, that goes along with the comment thread, the conversation the guy asked on Facebook. I don't know how many of you guys chimed in on that one, but that kind of goes along with that about back and forth about using your coaching skills in life and life skills in coaching.
Oh yeah, I saw something like that. Refresh my memory, Belinda, if you would, please.
Well, he was just asking some questions and about using his coaching skills and with his parenting style. I think he's a single dad, and I think that's what it was. And there was a lot of great comments. Some were like, no, we don't coach our families. And some were like, no, we use these life skills all the time and these coaching skills all the time. It was really, if you get a chance, go back and read the comments. There's some pretty good ones in there.
Thanks.
Robin, you said something and it kind of got mumbled on earlier. What was your last comment?
It's not
Yeah, story of my life. Customer service. That's the language of it too, you know.
Sure. Miss Rita?
I'm mulling over what Belinda was saying about the Facebook post. I don't Facebook very much at all. I just go on there to get the link to get on here. But I totally use the coaching on my raising my kids when my daughter will give you lots of examples of how all of the learning principles were used on her. In fact, before she became a rider coach, she became a smart trainer coach, and part of the training for non-rider coaches to learn how to use the smart trainer is they go over learning principles. And the people she was taking the training with were given the assignment of trying to figure out how they would explain the learning principles to a fifth grader. And before they did, they figured out the answer to that or what they were going to report out. She said to the entire group, listen, before we do this, I want to tell you something. I want to stop you. I want you to know that for every learning principle that's listed on these pages, I can tell you at some point in my life when my mother used this on me, every one of these principles. It was a shining moment in my life.
As it should have been.
I don't know what, the other parents thought of me when she's standing in the grocery store bleeding because she did something she shouldn't have. And I said, well, how did you do that? What happened? What might you do differently next time? What do you think you need to do next? As she's crying with blood running down her leg.
Probably the same way they looked at me when my kid was playing softball and this little girl totally rammed her in at second base, and she come off used to crying, and she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I said, you have one inning to sit here and I'll snuggle with you for one inning, and then you're getting your butt back out there. And this mom behind me was like, oh my God. And I'm like, seriously, if I let her stop now, she'll never go back out there. She won't do it. And so I said, so she gets one inning, I'll snuggle with her and kiss her boo-boos, and she's going back out there. And then when that little girl comes across second base, we'll, see how it goes.
When I think of customer service, it makes me think of canned responses that I get when I'm talking to someone on the telephone. And when you mention language, I think I try to be flexible to my student because some of them need the message in not so much different terms, that the message needs to be consistent, but the dialogue could be different based on you have your nervous students, you have your overthinkers, you have your underthinkers, and any variety of students. So what I'm getting to is we need to tailor our language to our customers, our students.
So reading your class, right, Rick?
Yeah, read your students, sure.
Yeah.
So we have a whole set of nonverbal language too. All of our hand signals to students, or the ones that we reserve for just other coaches.
Yeah, that's an entire language of itself, isn't it?
Part of why this stuck in my head was I saw a video this week on Facebook as I was, trying to avoid some work, and it happened to be of Belinda's, if I remember correctly. Did you post a video this week that had languaging that was somewhat different and kind of nonverbal?
Remind me, I do different videos.
There was a young man sitting on a seat.
Oh, yes, my son, yes. Yes. Actually, you know what? It's funny you say that because I thought maybe I should teach an entire class by lamp. So my son, for you guys, I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. I don't know who I'm friends with Facebook on. My son's teacher sent me a video and they were asking him what he wanted for Christmas from Santa. And it took a little bit and he'd say, I want, and then he'd say, I want, and they said, what do you want for Christmas? And then he was like, I want Gigi, which was my mom, what he calls my mom. And she, of course, I watched it with her and she boohooed and I boohooed, but yes, so we do a lot of that. If that's what you're talking about, that's my baby boy.
Absolutely, because although he could not speak the way we normally do, he knew the language. And I'm sure it was a very emotional thing. So now we have people talking about, the regular language that we use, some of the acronyms. We have people talk about the signals we use, or the nonverbal language. And that's where Belinda's son tied in and kind of had a little emotional impact on me this week. What other language is important within our field? I think somebody said, positive language. That's important. What else?
That's what I was going to say, is sometimes our body language or even our facial expressions, sometimes a student can read a lot into that. And it's something to be cognitive of, is how you look and how you're presented. I guess it's a little bit different right now during COVID with masks and everything. But usually I think I read people's facial expressions to see if they seem, happy, sad, angry, anything of that nature.
So I really like how Rick said what he said about reading, and Sarah said about reading the class. But one of the things about having a nonverbal child that you learn is to go into their world, and you have to be willing to go into their world, and you have to be willing to go into people's world. There was a young lady that has autism, and she did a video where she used to, when she was a child, she would repeat commercials and theme songs. And her mother it would drive her mother crazy, but what she was doing was she was speaking in those words, because those were the only words she could understand and try to get her point across. And when I watched that video one time, and it just really made me turn and look at my son in a different way and look at people in a different way. And I said, okay, I need to step into their world and them not come into our world, right? And so we as coaches learn a certain language that we have to know. You know, I had a professor say one time that school can teach you what you need to know, but it's your clients. Like my professor, he would say, we're going to teach you how to do counseling, but your clients are going to teach you how to be a counselor. And the same thing goes for being a rider coach. Like our trainers teach us what to coach, but our students teach us how to be coaches, right? And teach us what we need to do for each of them. And so, Rick, I am right on point with you about that.
So that's a great segue for the second half of this question. It started with languaging. And this, once again, Belinda, you're just a wealth of thought for me. When we were discussing stuff last week, you were discussing how it felt to have more seasoned rider coaches, trainers, or site managers talk to you in a way that, you know, just felt maybe a little bit demeaning or made you feel like, you know, they were talking to you different. They were talking to you different as a peer, and they were talking to you different than I hope they are talking to their students. So when we have a peer or somebody we hold in esteem, like a trainer or a site manager, use language that makes us feel bad, does that help in our learning process? And no, that's not rhetorical. I really want people to think about it and tell me what you think.
Don, if somebody gives me advice that makes me feel bad, sometimes, yes, it's going to stall the learning process temporarily. But if I look at that and take the idea of, okay, is it actual criticism of what's going on, or was that something extra that was made to make me feel bad, or was it made to be a reality check about what it is that I'm supposed to be doing versus what the goals are of whatever that activity is? So outside of true negativity, and I think there's a pretty good possibility that everybody as part of this has heard and potentially even dished out a few choice phrases in life to make somebody feel bad. I watch my kids do this, and 5 seconds later, they're right there to back the other one up. But previously, there was something not so nice said to them. But there's sometimes at class, and I had one student call me out on this week. He's like, Jason, why do you lead with whatever is wrong? I'm like, you're paying me to help you get better, and you want to be here, I assume, because you want a bigger paycheck, right? And usually I'll get kids go, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, then as part of my goal for your class is to get you enough education so you can walk in the door and ask for that raise and have concrete evidence why you should get it. And sometimes when explained that I have their best interest at heart, or what I perceive as that best interest at heart, now we have learning that goes forward if you can remotivate a student or to find their motivation. And sometimes if somebody does something that pisses me off, it's purely motivating me out of spite to prove them wrong. And I think we might have those students that you're like, they're not going to get this. And then they go ahead and do that. It may not have been the right customer service thing, as Mr. Dean was talking about, to say. It might not even have been your goal to motivate that student, but gosh darn it, they did it anyways. Sometimes they learn in spite of us, right, Rita?
So Jason, what I call, so you said you had a student that said, or a person that you work with said something about you always lead with the wrong, or that was wrong, whatever. One of the things that I've learned how to do is it's called the sandwich conversation. And I was this is something that I was taught way, like when I was much younger, by a manager I worked with. And what it was is he says, this is how you do this. This is how you start with a positive. Then you say the meat of what you need to. Usually it's a corrective, like this is something you need to correct. This is something that's going on. You know, this is the big issue. And then you close with a positive. So if you always, you know, you say, man, you worked really hard. You knew where to go. So you state a fact, right? A positive fact. Like, you know what? You knew where to go on that last exercise. How about if we work on this time? Because I know you can do that. I've seen you. And then you just keep on with that. And so you state a fact, a positive fact. It's not even about feelings at that time. It's state a positive fact that they've done, something you've seen them do. You know, find that meat of the conversation that you need to do and then end it with a positive. And it's kind of one of those, because people, if you start with that negative, you start with that, this is what you did wrong, people go, they put that wall up, right? And they're just like, la, 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 like a 2-year-old. I'm not going to listen to you because you just said something mean to me. And that's just how people are sometimes, especially nowadays. And so starting with that fact of you did this, potty training a child, think about that. Hey, you went to the bathroom. Here's a sticker. Guess what? The timer's getting started again, right? And so same thing.
I think some of that depends on what relationship you already have established with someone, because people who I have an ongoing relationship with, I'm surprised lately how many times I have had people in the last few years say, I don't want the sandwich, just give me the crap in the middle. I don't need to hear the good stuff at the beginning and the end. Just tell me what I need to improve, tell me what I suck at, and let's move on and get to it. But those are people who I've already established, like Jason has said, look, I'm here, I have your best interest at heart, and I want to help you improve. And then you can get away with, they already have heard and they already know you see good things in them. Now give me the crap in the middle of the sandwich.
Without a doubt, in my case, using that example, these are kids that I've spent 16 weeks with, and I'm now at final exam week. But in the short, I'd love to say adult learner world of motorcycle basic rider class, which is close to adult learning. It's certainly a lot closer to adult learning module or adult learning methods than Wisconsin Technical College student is, that's for sure. It's a shorter time frame. It's a shorter opportunity for rapport. My goals are different because I don't care if they really become motorcyclists or not. I want them to be happy with the product and come to that realization for themselves of are they, can they, will they, is they're totally their own decision. So I'm almost always going to be positive about what's going on in that interaction because they're scared. Now, of my students that I have for 16 weeks, they might be scared in a slightly different way because they've already paid to do this class. And if I don't figure out how to get them over the hump, they're going to pay to do that class again. The motorcycle students aren't like that. But Belinda, in a BRC sort of way, absolutely. Lead with, well, hey, good job not dying. Now let's see if we can work on some of those things we haven't done. And, you know, when students screw up and they come in and they know they screwed up in most cases, they have their head hanging. Within reason, how you pull off a high five when they show up and they're stationary can be good. And they're like, oh, I screwed up. I'm like, okay, cool. What are you gonna do different next time? And they already know. There's not even need for the sandwich. But after they've been there all day, they've been doing great and they make that one mistake. I'm guessing that everybody has that opportunity to laugh it off, to go, yes, I did not miss that, but what the heck happened there? And students acknowledge that and move on. It doesn't have to be a negative. But if you come to me in my diesel class and I've already explained how to use the tool, you choose not to use the book and do something stupid, you're going to hear about it. It probably isn't going to be very nice, especially if you're about to hurt yourself or somebody else.
So
no sandwich for you.
It's a sandwich, all right, filled with something.
So let's give people the benefit of the doubt and say that everybody's going to walk away learning something from every interaction. When you're condescending and negative and those things you were describing, Don, you risk them walking away with the lesson of how they want to communicate, which is not necessarily a bad lesson, but maybe not the goal of what you needed to impart upon them.
Any other thoughts?
How are we looking at them as they come into the classroom? You know, it should be one of empathy and compassion. We've all been in that situation where we're having to learn, and we're having somebody teach us. So that should be the foundation of everything that we do there.
So I'm going to give a personal example that I thought of last night in one of my other Zoom meetings. And I happened to be sitting at a desk across from my younger brother, and he was working on a computer. We were both kind of doing individual things. And every time that he was kind of hunting and pecking on his computer, every time he'd make a mistake, he'd say something like, "Oh, I'm stupid." And then he'd do a little bit more and he'd say, "Ah, damn it, I can't get this right." And then he'd do a little bit more. And it's like every word that came out of his mouth, his languaging was negative in character. And so having done some, personal thought, deep thought in the last 10 months or so, I was hearing my own language, my own voice coming out of my brother. Because I get that way when I'm working on something and if I'm wrenching and I screw up a nut or a bolt by using the wrong size, knowing better that I could have used the right tool, but I was trying to screw it up, the first thing I say, "Oh, stupid me," So I'm hearing myself coming out of my brother, and I was thinking, why is my brother using the exact same language that I use when I screw up? And going back to, something that Rita said about languaging, I started to connect it to in the fact that we learned that language from somebody. Those thoughts that are in our head that we were speaking out loud to ourselves, if we both heard it from the same point previously, it was the reason why we're saying it is because we believed it, because that's what we learned from somebody. Does that make sense? So who could that be?
You don't think that you're a product of your upbringing?
It's exactly what I was thinking, but thank you for taking me there, Laura. It's because of things that we heard, either spoken to us or spoken in our environment when we were younger kids. And it was kind of an epiphany last night as I was reading one of my weird books. And so it really brought this languaging thing back to me that Rita always kind of hits upon. What's your phrase, Rita?
Which one? Words matter.
Words matter, absolutely. So then I started to, because the other phrase that Rita has is everything relates to the BRC, I started circling back around to how, where's this coming from if I attach it to the BRC? And so I don't know about everybody else, but I've been around a few senior rider coaches that I've tried to learn from. And it seems to me like the languaging that I always get is one of three different veins. I either have a very supportive, nurturing peer or senior knowledgeable person that's trying to teach me, and they, oh, that didn't work well, did it? Okay, how can we fix it? Let's work on this together. Or there's the other rider coach that, kind of, takes a deep breath and says, that's not the way we do it. And then they walk away, or they say, I don't want you touching anything. From now on, you're C2, not C1. And so you've got those people. So I forgot the third way I was thinking, but you've got somebody that's mentoring you, somebody that's trying to help you, and then you got Jason was the other example here. Hey, stupid, what do we need to do to fix this? And it could be taken either way. It's kind of in the middle. Either you grow up probably like Jason and I did, where you got kind of thick skin, and it takes somebody just knocking on the head a little bit to say, all right, let's fix it, and that's okay. Or you have somebody that takes that personal because they're a little bit more vulnerable, and they're not willing to share that with you. So the whole languaging thing got me, going in circles this week. And so I guess the point of the whole discussion is, how do we use language with our peers, with our students, to ensure that we don't put people off, that we allow them to understand that it's okay to screw up. We all do it. That's the only way I learn, by the way, is I try something, I dork it up, and then like my brother, oh, you dummy, what'd you do that for? And then I go back and I try it again. Probably because of the language, I'm used to being the dummy to have to go back and try to figure it out. Failure has taught me a lot. But how do we talk to each other? How do we bring more people into the fold that understand that our languaging and how we talk to each other is really important? Probably just as important peer-to-peer rider coach as it is rider coach to student.
I think there's a big key to what you're saying as far as our self-talk. There's a huge difference between, oh, you dummy, why did, talking to yourself saying, you dummy, why'd you do it that way? And saying, boy, that was a dumb move, do it a different way, you can do better. Calling yourself dumb as opposed to calling the move dumb, it has hugely different implications. And so I think that's something, Sarah Kay said earlier about reading your class and reading each student and figuring out, do they have self-esteem issues where they think they are dumb, or are they coming around shaking their head thinking, well, that was a dumb move, I'm going to try it different next time? And I'm sure we've all seen the students who you can tell no one has ever told them they are worth anything or have done anything right, and they are dumb. And they need our help to realize that they're not dumb, but some of the things that they have done probably didn't work out so well. Getting them out of that mindset so that they can see the possibility of success in the class.
So there's two ways to always do this. First off, the thing you were talking about, Dawn, about the first thing coming out of your mouth is a negative thing. Great way to always start a day is, would you say that to your kid, or would you allow someone else to say that to your child? When I work with women that have a lot of low self-esteem and a lot of work to be done, when they look at themselves in the mirror and the first thing they say is, oh my God, you're so fat, honey, you're nasty looking, right? Very common thing to hear come out of a woman's mouth. Helping them learn to say, would you allow someone to say that to your own child that you gave birth to and that you love very dearly? And they'd be like, nah, I'd knock the snot out of them, right? So big thing about that. Would you allow someone to say this to your child? If not, then why would you say it to yourself? And then Rita, you are on point always separating a person from the problem or a person from the issue is a huge, huge way of human growth and also learning techniques, because the problem is the problem, the person is the person. And
So let me take this just a little bit further, because a little while ago we were talking about the RETSORG forum. How do people, or how did people, because it's now not out there for the moment at least, how did people feel when they went out to the forum and they asked the question, and some of the responses that happened out there? How do you think that made a peer feel if you spend any time on the forum?
I know I've put some questions on the forum, and I felt at times, actually most of the time, is without getting a response that either it wasn't worthy of a response or I wasn't an active enough participant to be acknowledged to get a response. It was. I liked the forum and I didn't because of that in ways. I don't think it was kind of like a little bit cliquish, I guess you could say.
Indeed, I second that comment.
Second it how? Be more specific, Laura, if you would.
Well, I mean, I think maybe even though I can't necessarily say I have experienced those feelings about having posted something on RETSORG personally, I have seen posts that were responded to in a way that made me feel for the poster probably feeling that way, if you can follow that convoluted logic. So I guess the answer to your question is, I think that people probably were made to feel that way, meaning not a good way, for whatever reason. But and I think it kind of goes back to how thick is people's skin and how much experience do they have with public forums in general, to just realize that that's just kind of a thing that happens in forums, period, whether it's RETSORG or any other public forum. And it's not about you meaning the poster, it's about other people often.
But when you are part of a tribe, and you get that feeling that, you know, do they really think that about me or what I posted? Or am I that far off base with the tribe? I think it has a tendency to separate us instead of bring us together. And so once again, I'll go back, you know, what language are we using with each other if we're not accepting, that we're not helpful, that we're not being more vulnerable, sorry about that word, with each other?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And I guess I will just say that I don't think that happens here, and that's a good thing.
That's what I was going to say, is this is a really good environment here, but I don't think the forums always had that. I think you hit the nail on the head on that sometimes it was almost like a personal measuring contest, or somebody would, I don't know, it's just
verbal combat.
Yeah.
I think it's the difference between actually seeing the impact of our words as opposed to almost randomly typing them.
Rita's right. The anonymity of the internet, the lack of facial expression, the lack of tone, all of that makes it it doesn't matter what's on the other side. I'm right, and that's how it is. And then, of course, there's the other side that you have to, well, you don't have to, clearly, but in order to care, you kind of have to empathize with who's ever on the other side. And do you really do that when it's just words on a page? This personality that you don't know. We all read tone into text, whether you're consciously doing it or not. And it is the number one reason that I hate text messages from my family that contain more than one sentence. Because if they want to know something and convey a thought, and product of your environment, right? I'm convinced that my mother overanalyzes everything. Do you want dinner? No, Mom. No, thank you. Well, you don't like my dinner? You don't like the way I'm cooking? Consequently, no, I don't. But that isn't what I said. And it just goes down the rabbit hole. So I think that happened on the forums. I think that, Don, for me, honestly, not just with you, but coaches in general, the whole idea that we had IRETs and Rita talked me into going once, and met real people from different places that had similar but different experiences, and I can sit back and listen to them and learn. This, whatever Belinda just said previously, because she said it, I watched her face, and sometimes when she doesn't have her camera on, I can still hear her voice and think about what she looks like saying this, and it makes an impact. If she typed all that shit out, I would have stopped reading in the first sentence and commented on whatever. Well, okay, I wouldn't have commented, but you pick up that one thing and commented on versus reading the substance of the piece, so to speak. And anything that was on the RETSORG forum, holy shit, if you went past a paragraph and it wasn't labeled Don Green or Mark Weiss to whoever's point made it, the clickiness, I know whose stuff to read. And if it said Doc on it, it's highly entertaining, but I don't know if I agree with it. It turns out Doc's like that in person too. And that's awesome. But that was my take on forums and life. And this part where we see faces and meet people and have that tribe that I'd never heard of before I heard Don Green talk about being a tribe is a big deal. Except for Robin, I respect all of you.
We all feel that way about Robin. It's okay.
So I just posted and this is going to sound completely weird and y'all are going to be like, oh my God, her ethics are insane. But the video that I just posted, it's definitely an interesting video, explicit language, go ahead and give that warning in there. But I actually used that with a client one time because of this reason. And we talked about how we read text messages, actually read them in emails in the mood that we're in when we read them. And so, I always love to share that video of the Keen and Peele video because it is freaking hilarious and it is on point. If you get it, it's 2 minutes long, so open it and save it for after this, but it's freaking hilarious. And Rick, I want to know, what is one of the questions that you posted on the forum that did not get answered that these guys here, I'm telling you, man, I have learned so much from these people on this screen this past year. Has been like the blessing of 2020 for me. One of the biggest blessings is learning from these ladies and gentlemen on here. So Rick, what is one of the questions you had that didn't get answered that someone in here could answer for you?
I can't think of anything really specific right now. If I do, I'll certainly chime back in. Things get buried in the back of my head and it takes a few minutes for it to come back up. But sometimes I think if I posted something or maybe it was a question, it was driven into a direction that maybe I didn't intend, and most time I would just abandon ship and not really bother to follow it up.
So one of the things that I did on the forum, and this was only for trainers, and I wanted to find out, how often people got on, who were getting on, why were they getting on. So for the past 3 years, about this time every year because, you know, things lighten up and we have a little time to get on the forum a little bit more. And it was usually generated by IRETs. I'd ask in the Rider Coach Trainer section, who reads the forum? And I would leave it like that. And I have like 3 years worth of data on it where I could tell you who would respond in that time period and who would respond a couple months later. And so, because I'm anal that way, I was tracking it, and it'll be part of the next, hopefully the next paper, legitimate research paper I put out that follows Dr. Ray's competencies and abilities that he put out in 2005. Because it says a lot about the nature of our tribe when I think the trainers don't invest time in everybody else. And I don't necessarily like the term or the juxtaposition of trainer versus rider coach, because I really think we are all rider coaches. There are some trainers out there that are just extremely experienced, you know, Mark Wise, Lynn, Josh, shows the knowledge that they have gained that allows them to help other rider coaches out. Rita, if I leave you out, I'm sorry, because there's so many good ones out there. But the fact is, there's also 214 trainers out there, and only 15 of them showed up on RETSORG at any given time over a period of 3 years while I was monitoring this. Does that seem right? I don't know. But I think part of it is our languaging, how we treat each other, how we seek knowledge, and how other people help other people seek knowledge. And we do a good job talking about it for students, but why don't we do better talking about it to each other? And once again, that kind of rolls that whole languaging topic back to the part where, you know, I think we can do better. I know we can do better. Look at this group. Again, you know, I can't sing the praises enough. And so to kind of wrap it up tonight, there was one other word that kind of put this all together for me this week, and it was kindness. Once again, I've got about 4 books going on, and I know last week I talked about Neil Peart's Traveling Music. He was talking about some time he spent in London when he was a young musician trying to get a gig playing drums in a band. And he said after one audition, the band dropped him off at his flat in London, and the bass player touched him on the shoulder and said, "You did pretty good. Maybe in the future you'll be a better drummer." You know, was that kind of him? Well, maybe not. But how many of you take a second, go into your mind a little bit, and think about that person that inspired you to be a rider coach and what things they said that inspired you to be a rider coach? Were they kind? Chances are they were. And so the word that stuck with me besides Rita's languaging this week is kindness. If we can be a little bit more kind to each other, if we can mentor somebody or be mentored by somebody in a kind way, I think we'd get a lot further than somebody said, was it you, Josh, measuring what's going on? You know, the more I learn, the more I don't know. The more I know I need to learn. And the day that I know everything, I know that I've stopped learning. So be kind to each other. Remember that I love you, but don't take that the wrong way. And I'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, everybody. Everybody have a great night.
You too. Thanks everyone for your awesomeness, and see you real soon. Thanks, Don.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Bye, everybody. Y'all have a great week. Merry Christmas if we don't see you beforehand.
Oh, we'll see ya. Merry Christmas.
I hope to see you.